Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hang with Mangg. Playing a little Monster Hunter World Iceborne today. And, yeah, let's just get to talking so we don't go over an hour or something. I'm closing in right now on a month in my new place. I think tomorrow will be a month. It's been pretty good. I like living on my own, just having my own world here. My cats are slowly but surely adjusting pretty well, I think. You know, once they sort of just forget about their previous existence, I think it goes better. Um, and yeah, it's been pretty good. You know, my only real problem, I guess, it's not really a problem, is like being in a condo with shared walls with a neighbor. Sort of new to me, and you know, I'm really like conscientious of my voice traveling and stuff like that. In my studio room, I'm pretty adjusted now. I don't have any problem like playing music and talking and recording and stuff like that. Because I usually keep just sound constantly flowing in this room, and so far there hasn't been any complaints, so it's all good. But like when I'm in my kitchen and stuff, and it's like, you know, what if the neighbors are in their kitchen? It's like, can they hear me? Can they hear me talking to my cats? It's kind of weird. I don't know. Am I really alone here? um, but my parents were over and they happened to be chatting with the neighbors, and the neighbors were like, "Oh yeah, we're always like blasting movies in our movie room and stuff," and I've never heard any sound coming from their place, so I assume the walls are pretty good. So that's good. I've been cooking. I've been cooking a lot in the last month. Um, I'm really trying to just eat right. Yeah, I do it. I'm doing all my own grocery shopping. I'm doing all my own food preparation and stuff, and it's been nice. You know, I got a lot of time, and I like to cook, so it's good. It's good. I've been cooking a bunch. So now, you know, pretty much everything I eat is either like fruit or something that I have cooked myself or prepared myself, which is pretty good. You know, 'cause before I moved, my diet was not great. There was a lot of like chicken nuggets and things like that. So yeah, having my own kitchen and all that, and being responsible for all my own shit, it's been good. It's been good. I like it. Basically means I make a lot of tacos, but I'm experimenting with different taco stuff. Like, I made my own carnitas. Really delicious. Tried some ground pork tacos instead of ground beef. That was pretty good. I made my own taco seasoning. That was pretty good. The other week I had my parents, my brother and his wife over. I made them homemade meatloaf. That was really good. I discovered a love of sriracha, just like many other people. Really good shit. So it's all going well. Things are moving ahead on my basement movie theater room. You know, we got to get that radon sorted and all that. And I got to get carpet down there, but I'm hopeful that sometime during October I'll be able to watch some horror movies in a movie theater room. That'll be nice. And then I can show off a video of the place for anyone that cares. Moving on. This week on this channel, as I said we would, we had Monster Hunter World Iceborne and Telling Lies. That seems to be the schedule for this coming week. Although I think I'm nearing finishing Telling Lies. I don't think it's that much longer. And I decided what I should do for like my October game, horror related. The fine people that made Until Dawn put out a new game that has a really weird name that I can't remember. Something like Man of Medan or something like that. I don't know. It's another game in the same style, I guess. But it's apparently like the first game in a planned series of like 8 games or some insanity. And the reviews are not as hot. Maybe it's because like with Until Dawn, the formula was really fresh and new and interesting, and now it's like, okay, there's not a lot of innovation here, or maybe it's just not well executed compared to Until Dawn, or I don't know. I don't really know the plot of it. I think it involves a ship. You're on a ship or something like that. I liked Until Dawn because it was just such like a perfect, you are playing a horror movie. You are playing a slasher movie. And that was just such a unique thing. But this is something new, and I like to let's play new stuff. So, because I was just thinking about like, what other horror type game would I even want to play? And this, I feel like I wouldn't be, you know, it's not like Outlast or some shit like that where I have to just feel tense the whole time. So I think that's what we'll probably do after Telling Lies is done, as we roll into October, best month of the year. And over on the Exploring series, we are also rolling into October, of course. So we put out a video on the Broken Masquerade, which was pretty well received, I guess. People liked that, even though it was pretty short. And there were definitely people disappointed by how short it was. Haha. But I knew, like I said last time, I knew I could make up for that with a second video. So I put out a 20-minute video on the SS Sommerfeld, which is a great little SCP. I had not read that before, but I really like that one. And it seems other people like it as well. That over 100,000 views right now, I think. Too shabby nowadays. And this week I worked on a very unique SCP, a singularly unique SCP. I don't think there's anything else like it. There are other SCPs that are games. Like, it's not unique in that way, but it is the only SCP I'm aware of that is a playable game. I don't think anyone else has made a playable video game that contains an SCP. So that's pretty cool. It made for a very unique work process. As I put out a video of me playing through the game on this channel for my first playthrough. But then I ended up playing it for like another hour or so, just making sure I got all the endings filmed, making sure I clicked on everything and blah blah blah. And I think I like fucked up one more time and I had to play the game an extra time, but yeah, that was a little unique. It was kind of fun. It was like if I did like an exploring of like the Final Fantasy series, and I just like explained the plot of the games as I played through it like that. I wonder how those videos would go over. So yeah, it was a fun video to work on, and I think it turned out to be a pretty good video. I think it's solid. It's not a crazy SCP. It's probably not going to be many people's favorites, but I think it's good, which is nice. And I wanted to use some sort of SNES like RPG music in the background of the video. I didn't want to just use like cryo chamber horror music. And then I was like, I don't know. Am I going to get copyright problems if I use Final Fantasy VI music in the background? Usually I keep the music low enough and I talk over it. I almost never have any issues like that. I don't know. I just don't want to deal with that. So I decided to go with a remix. I went with Balance and Ruin, the very best Final Fantasy VI remix out there. I don't know if that's true. I haven't heard of it, but it's a great collection I've used in the past on this channel. And it also just happens to be music that I've saved on my hard drive and made it easy for me, but never you mind that. It was the right fit. So I interspersed some of that throughout the video. Some of it was just like, okay, this doesn't sound bad, so throw it in there. Some of it I did hand pick. Like when I beat the final boss, I play like the fanfare remix, so that works out. So overall, I think it's a pretty solid video. I think people will like it. Yeah, and then this weekend, with my October spookiness, I'm working on a video about the Zodiac Killer, who operated in California in the late 60s, early 70s. I know the commentary for that, or the comment section for that video is going to be filled with Ted Cruz stuff. All people seem to care about the Zodiac Killer nowadays. There was a big budget film about the Zodiac Killer starring Jake, Prince of Persia Gyllenhaal, and some other people. I've never seen it. I plan to watch it probably tonight. Just to help me sort of visualize what I'm writing about, and because I kind of want to see it. It's sort of grim, like going from just like fictional horror, you know, the SS Summerfield with its reality bending craziness, and just like, oh, people turning into glass, that's horrible. And it's like, yeah, okay, you know, it's messed up, I guess, but it's all just, you know, words somebody put on paper on the internet. Whereas, you know, you move on to a subject like the Zodiac Killer, you're talking about real horror. These real fucked up people that have lived on this planet and affected it through brutality, and you know, it's just like, okay, a little grim that I'm writing about this, but a lot of people have morbid fascinations with serial killing. Nothing wrong with that as long as you don't actually serial kill people. And you know, these videos, some videos like where I do mythology and stuff, maybe there is some value, I guess, in my summarization, like, as in there aren't that many short summaries of an entire mythological creature or something like that. Like, apparently, like my dragons video, apparently that has some merit because a bunch of people, you know, it was recommended, a bunch of people liked it, blah blah blah. So there might be some value in that, but it's like you know, when I talk about serial killers and stuff, you have like whole podcasts, like 2-hour, you know, where they go into such great detail and they really dive into this and show off all the stuff. And it's like, you know, there are way better places to hear and learn about these historical events than my little summary. So really, I'm just doing this sort of stuff for my own benefit. You know, when I did the video on Jack the Ripper, it was like, okay, yeah, of course I know about Jack the Ripper, but you know, I didn't really know much of any detail about it. It's just he was a guy that killed people and killed women, and he never got caught. It's like, oh, then you learn all about exactly what he did, exactly, you know, what people thought about it at the time, so on and so forth. H.H. Holmes, you know, I knew that he had some weird fucked up hotel, but there was so much more to it than that. I like getting the full picture about, I like learning stuff, so these little videos, I know they're not going to get more than like 40,000 views or something like that, but I just like to learn. Nothing wrong with that. And, you know, I'm sure some people will learn about it in the process and they'll be like, oh, wow, thanks, this is great. And that's just the purpose. So I really want to do, I haven't decided all the stuff I'm doing throughout October, but I really want to do something on, maybe, I mean, I could just call it Salem Witch Trials, but there were witch trials in places other than Salem, so I might want to lump all the witch trials together. You know, last year I contemplated doing a whole video on witches, but that's really a big topic. If I narrow it down to just witch trials, that's manageable. But you know, a lot of people think like they were just burning women left and right at the stake, but it's like, at least in Salem, you know, no one was ever burned at a stake. They were all hanged or hung. I'll have to double check which one that is. So that's an interesting one. That's it's just a real life thing that's often mentioned in pop culture and real world and stuff like that. It's like, oh, witch trial, burning at the stake, blah blah blah. But people might be interested in learning a bit more of what actually happened. Like that guy that was like pressed underneath stones and stuff like that. He was real badass because he just kept asking them to put on more weight. It's like a fuck you. Now I want to talk about that. I probably should do some sort of mythology topic. Although I'm sort of running out of beasties. You know, October Halloween beasties. Did werewolves, I did zombies, I did vampires. What am I going to talk about? Mummies? That's not. That's like just fucking history. That's not mythology. I don't know what else I can do for that. I could do the Jonestown Massacre. I could do some other like weird events in history, like the Ditlov Pass. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't decided all yet. I'll probably put out some community posts in October about my Halloween SCP video. Remind people about that. Give that a few views, and my video on Halloween, which I thought was pretty good. I like my Halloween video. People don't care, but I like that one. Yeah. And then November, we're gonna do another set of polls and start up a side series again, so that I can never stop working. Yeah, moving on then. Let's talk about Delta Green. So last time we had the mission about SCP-028 knowledge in the small town. And that one I had been cooking in my mind for quite a while. I was like, oh yeah, at some point I want to run a SCP Delta Green game, and started with SCP-028. That'll be great. But I had never really given much thought beyond that. So I had debating between 184, the Architect, and 2480, an unfinished ritual. And I went back and forth until like the day we had the session. Until I decided to do an unfinished ritual. As much as I wanted to do something in the Kowloon Walled City, I couldn't think of like... The only thing I thought was like, okay, maybe like when they go into the main structure and it's all crazy and stuff, maybe like the Chaos Insurgency also has some agents in there trying to find the Architect, and they fight it out with them. But it's just like, okay, then we're just doing like some sprawl shootout, and it just happens to be in a weird location. It's like, I don't know. I should ramp it up more than that. So I went with an unfinished ritual. I did change some stuff, some on purpose, some incidentally, because I didn't properly reread through the article. But unfinished ritual is honestly one of my favorite SCPs. Absolutely. It's just, you know, it's definitely Lovecraftian, but it's just a perfect combination of the cosmic horror and weird small townness of Lovecraft combined with just the absolute fuckery of the SCP universe. That just, Lovecraft would have probably gotten to if he was a modern author. But, his brain back then would not have been able to comprehend, or he wouldn't have reached these points yet. With just the sort of visceralness of some of the events that occur. And so I had my concerns because last time I ran an SCP campaign, it was really sort of railroaded, or so I felt. There was like one solution to every problem. And I really wanted to avoid that. I wanted them to experience SCP-2480. I wanted them to experience this town and its weirdness and the sort of invisible war that's going on. But I didn't want to just lead them through the SCP article in the form of an RPG session. Like, that's precisely... I wanted them to have options and choices. So I needed to open up... I needed to expand it a bit and give it a bit more potential. So... the SCP article, it starts with them finding out about this GOC operation into this town at this manor where this little secret society is operating. And, the ritual gets fucked, everything dies and blows up, and that starts the whole problem in the town at that point. And this is in, like, the 60s. Like 1962 or something like that. And so I was like, okay, I mean, I could have had that happen. And I could start them investigating this, the site director or whatever that gets sent in to sort of monitor the thing over the course of 40 years, and he suddenly stops reporting in. I could have them be the investigators that go in to check on this guy and find out that, something happened. But I wanted it to be more... I wanted them to be in the manor. And I wanted them to sort of bear witness to just the insane gore and bloodshed and what nonsense that occurred in the manor. So I decided to start them investigating this GOC operation. I never said GOC, I just said like rival paranatural organization or whatever. But I was, their Delta Green handler called them up and said, there's this rival paranatural organization sent in some agents for some sort of operation in this small coastal town in Massachusetts. And anytime you hear small coastal town in Massachusetts, it's Lovecraftian. So I went with the name Kingswitch. Very Lovecraft parody name. And the Delta Green did not know what this operation was, what this other organization was doing. But all they knew was that if they were interested in this town, then Delta Green needed to be interested in this town as well. So they were sending in some investigators to check it out, see what they were. So they didn't know about the scale of this operation, or if it was like really a militant operation or anything like that. They hadn't heard anything on the news or any reports or anything like that coming from this town, so it must not have been too big. So they sent in a small team. And their handler told them about this mansion that was in town, owned by a wealthy industrialist, Cornelius P. Bodefell. And they said, they had reports on this guy that he had a noted interest in the occult, and he ran this little social club. So far, Delta Green has not had any reason to believe that it's anything more than that, but if something's going down, that would be the first place to look, is this guy's weird mansion. So by the time the three of them arrived in Kingswich, things were already done with this operation. This ritual had already been interrupted or whatever, as per the article. So all the GOC agents were dead, and all the people inside the manor were dead. But the three players, when they first arrived, they found like 3 black SUVs outside the house, and they just were on stakeout for like 12 hours or something like that, or 10 hours. They didn't want to go in. They didn't want to interrupt anything. They just wanted to observe and see who's coming and going, but nothing is happening in this house. So they just sat there in their car for like 10 hours, and I'm like, yeah, nothing changed. So eventually they muster up the courage to go poking around.
Reminds me. Take care out there.
The article doesn't say much about, exactly what's inside the house or anything like that. I had to piece some things together and improvise a little bit. They did not like this house because it was basically just like a gore fest. There was just horribleness everywhere, and that means a lot of sanity loss. So they were getting upset at just the constant sanity loss as they poked through this house. They did find the statue in the Great Hall. As mentioned in the article, the statue of like Yaldabaoth or whatever, with the lion head and worm body. And they didn't poke around much initially, because they were losing sanity. They saw all this blood and gore, and I think Thomas like stared at the statue for a while, and he was like studying something about it. He was like trying to determine history or whatever, and he really botched the roll. He got like a 98. So I was like, okay. You start feeling something like underneath your skin at the small of your back, and nobody else could see it, but he could feel something moving around. So he like ran, he walked out of the house, and after a little while it stopped. So he didn't really want to go back in, and none of them wanted to go poking around some more, so they called up their handler. And they told him that, it was a gore fest. They told him what they saw in the house. And Ziggy had been taking pictures on his phone, so he sent the phone pictures over. But obviously I still wanted them to keep poking around. There was more to find. And I could just say, okay, we'll send in a crew, and they'll find everything for you. But I wanted this. So he's like, okay, did you find Bodefell's body? Did you determine why this operation, why these agents went in there? And they did not determine either of those things, so they had to go back in. And I was pretty nice. I didn't need them to continually go room for room throughout the mansion. So I summed it up. I just gave them a little bit more sanity loss, and they ended up finding like Bodefell's study, where Bodefell's body was located, and they found some documents, and they talked about looting the guy's safe, which I think they decided not to do. And there was a locked basement door, and they were debating about going down the basement, into the basement, and seeing what's down there. And they were like, dude, you know, if this is the scene up here, imagine what's going on down in the locked basement. And in the end, they were right. There was no benefit for them going down into the basement. I had basically just like thrown an invisible monster down there. Because throughout this whole sequence, them in the mansion, and then when they go into town, I wanted to sort of emphasize that there was something unseen in this whole place. There was something that they could not perceive, but that like the residents of the town could perceive. I wanted to really emphasize that, so eventually they would go to Delta Green and say, look, there's something going on here, but we just can't perceive it. It's beyond, you know, something is happening, but we don't know. Because I want to lead into the whole DMT invisible war type thing as we finish this one. So they call up the handler again, and they're like, okay, we got all these documents and blah, blah, blah. We found Bodefell's body. We're pretty sure that, you know, the operation... Yeah, they summed up what they could deduce about this operation into this manor, which wasn't a whole lot. They also found, you know, the article talks about these orgies and stuff that this little secret society held that include like human sacrifice and cannibalism. You know, it's really dark stuff. And they found, initially they were searching bodies, and they found like some ID on one guy, and I was like, okay, we'll make this guy sort of famous. I didn't want to name drop anyone specifically, so I just made up like the name of a US senator. And they didn't realize at first, but when they sent like the guy's license over to him, over to their handler, he's like, oh my god, this is a US senator. I was like, okay, this is some serious shit. And then they, I think they were like searching more bodies, and they found like the ID of Mark Cuban, or like, I don't have anything against Mark Cuban. That was just like the first name to come to mind. Could have been anybody. And then they eventually found the actual guest list of some of these parties that included all sorts of political figures, religious authorities, you know, industrial leaders, you know, all sorts of powerful people that were apparently partying up with the Sarkics. So they sent all this over. And the handler's like, okay, we'll have a cleanup crew come in. They'll pick up the documents and stuff from you, and they'll investigate. In the meantime, I want you three to head into the town and you know, ingratiate yourselves and find out any info you can about this secret society, Bodefell, whatever, from the locals, you know. These people have been here a while. I'm sure they've seen some stuff, heard some stuff, who knows what. Hey. So the three head into town. And this is where I just didn't... I had forgotten. I didn't reread the article properly and all that. The article talks about how everyone in town is like completely like grim and somber, and you know, they never smile at all, and blah blah blah. It's like Innsmouth. Like no one is happy in the town. I changed it and made everyone like creepily happy, sort of like Get Out, where they're all like, you know, have this just happy veneer over their faces that you can immediately tell is just creepy. I think either way, it's a big cliche. Like either one you do is off and just overdone and all that sort of stuff. But the thing is, like, I'm not trying to pretend that everything's normal in this town. Like, we're playing Delta Green. They know that everything is fucked up and horrible and awful. There's no point hiding it. So either one I went with, it's just whatever. You know, they know things are creepy. I could have... I guess I could have just done it as if everyone was normal, but then it's like... then I'm really sort of breaking away from the article. I don't know. So I had everyone just be overly smiley and creepy. And they begin, they get some rooms at the motel. And then I basically just start picking out stuff from the article itself and just using it. Like the guy mowing his lawn at 2 in the morning or whatever. And, the face at the hotel door just like slamming their head over and over against the door. The kids taking bites out of like a dead dog in the street, you know, shit like that. I was taking stuff straight from the article because I think it's really good, and they apparently thought it was pretty creepy as well. And then I threw in some of stuff of my own because I needed them to like check the peephole on their door in order to initiate like the door head slamming. So I was like, okay, I'll have them like notice breathing outside of their door and see what they do with that. So I have them roll awareness, and of course they all fail their awareness, so they don't notice the breathing. I'm like, all right, whatever. They go to bed. But I still want something creepy to happen because they're freaking out that they failed the awareness roll. Like, okay, I gotta have something happen then. So they have a dream during the night. Two of them have identical dreams of like them paralyzed in their hotel bed and some guy just like standing over them smiling at them. And then in the morning they find like dirty footprints in their bedroom that lead to their bed. Stuff like that. So yeah, they sort of split up and just start poking around the town and finding out what they can. And I drop little details and things like that. Like they see people walking on the sidewalk and they just like randomly sidestep as if they're avoiding something. Like I said, I want to emphasize this whole unseen world thing that's going on. And Thomas runs into the old drunk guy at the docks, the Zadok, who asks if he's a Fed, just like in the article. I didn't know if he was going to go to say yes or no. He said no, because he's not a Fed. Neither is the person in the article. Obviously, they work for the SCP Foundation, but in the article, they lie. I think Thomas thought if he said no, the guy would open up to him. But he's just like, oh, okay. And then he heads off into like a bar. Eventually, they do meet up with the guy in the bar. They buy him a drink and they talk to him about the town. The guy has some true information, but most of it's just sort of like insane, drunken ramblings. So he mentions the monsters and the fog and stuff like that. But then they ask him like about the food or something. They ask if he wants food, and he's like, I wouldn't eat the fish in this town. And it's like, at the time I said that, I wasn't sure if I wanted to fuck with the fish, but then they later went to like a seafood restaurant, and I was like, do I really want to really fuck with them here? There's still the invisible war to get to, so I was like, okay, the fish is fine, whatever. So I think they believed some of the guy's stuff, but they didn't believe everything. They also, I specifically pointed out like an abandoned warehouse. On the docks. You know, it's mentioned in the article that they go inside of it and it's sort of weird and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, I'll mention it because it's, you know, it's an abandoned warehouse right on the docks. And you think with a town with a fishing community, they would be using this warehouse. So why is it abandoned? Blah, blah, blah. So they start asking around all about this warehouse. And they ask the drunk guy about it. He's just like, well, go check it out. And he specifically says that you probably won't die by going into it. So eventually the three of them muster up the courage to go into this warehouse. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with it. It's very anticlimactic. I mean, in the article, it just builds up the creepiness. But you can't just constantly build up creepiness. You have to have some sort of payoff at some point for players in an RPG. Otherwise, they're going to get pissed off. It's just like all these red herrings and just, oh boy, that's creepy, but this is a dead end. When they open the door to the warehouse, they find that instead of a big warehouse, it's just like a small 2-story home. So clearly there's some sort of dimensional anomaly going on here. And so I think they started to suspect it was like some sort of, this place was like a portal to different places in the world or something like that. I mean, I specifically said that the TV was from like the 50s and the food was on the nightstands and it was like long rotten and blah blah. Like, it wasn't just, they didn't just go to some place. Like, this is clearly some fuckery with time or with whatever. And in the article, the two agents like see a shadow of a figure running upstairs, and they go up there and they find nobody, and that's it. It's like, that's supposed to be okay. It's creepy. What's going on here? But if I just pulled that on them, they'd be, because they built like, oh, okay, we're gonna rush up there. He can't get away from us, and we're gonna shoot him, or they start building this up, and I'm like, okay, I can't just blue ball him like that. There has to be something cool up here. So I could have thrown all sorts of stuff up at the top of this house, but I think like the next video I'm working on is SCP-2510. I think that's the number. Which is like that dimensional portal machine or whatever that leads to a bunch of worlds affected by the Sarkics and the Church of the Broken God and stuff. It deals with all that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna have just a bunch of doors up here that lead to those different dimensions. Because it was something I could do really easily on the fly and I didn't have to think about it. So they start poking through the doors, and I'm just basically reading off the SCP-2510 exploration logs. You know, they're only like poking their heads in, so they don't see much. And so the first door just opens up into like some desolate wasteland. They close that. The second door leads into like some weird subway bathroom. Not Subway the restaurant, like a subway tunnel. And they ponder, I think Studs like starts exploring that, and then he finds like humans huddled in the shadows looking at him, and he's like, all right, fuck this. The third door just opens up into like a elemental plane of sulfur. There's more to it if they had gone in, but if they had gone in unprotected, they would of course died. So it's good they shut the door right away. And then the fourth room is just like this small cubicle area. And they notice like some automaton in the corner, but it's dark. They don't really want to go in. So they just like take some photos, and that's that. So they didn't really explore because it could have led into whole sorts of different sessions there if they had started going around. And like if they had really started fully exploring the subway tunnel, I would have had to really flesh that out. So they were just poking around. And then I think they got out of the house. They reported this all to their handler. They mentioned, you know, something about they can't perceive something going on here in this town. People are acting weird and blah, blah, blah. And so I didn't want the handler to be immediately like, oh, we got a guy who knows about DMT. We'll send him over. You know, like I wanted it to be a little time for him to like ponder this. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna talk this over with the eggheads. Just stay another night. I'll get back to you in the morning. So they stay another night, and this time they're a little bit paranoid. So they like barricade their doors and stuff like that. And I think a couple of them stay in the same room in like and sleep in shifts. And this time they succeed on their awareness rolls. So I'm like, all right, they hear breathing. They hear breathing outside their door. And they like both have their guns at the ready, but they're not gonna do anything. Because it's like, why would they, you know, if there's just some guy breathing outside their door, what are they gonna, why would they shoot him or whatever? Why would they confront him? So I'm like, all right, well, fuck you guys then. So I just have the breathing start to get louder and louder. Not as if like the person is exerting more effort to breathe to make it louder. It's literally just the decibel count of the breathing continually is growing louder, which is certainly more creepy. And so at this point, they both eventually go to the peephole as planned. And they see a face that belongs to something humanoid. And then it just begins slamming its head against the door, as I wanted to happen from the start. And see, so that's, you know, that's the setup, which is fine. I took that straight from the article. That's good. But now the choice of what exactly happens is in their hands. I didn't know what they were going to do after that. You know, in the article, the person just like lets it happen for the rest of the night and they don't get any sleep. Players in an RPG are probably not going to do that. So of course they just start like opening fire. Ziggy specifically just like unloads his assault rifle on this humanoid thing's face, which worked out because then it obscures the face, so that I didn't have to like decide exactly what the face looked like that they couldn't determine through the peephole. Studs is a little tricky. He like cracks open the door and like shoots him in the kneecaps or something like that. So that thing like gets away and like runs down the hallway and out of sight, and all they see is like a humanoid figure in the shadows that looks especially fleshy, and there's a blood trail. And so at this point they're like, okay, we got to get the fuck out of here. We were attacked. And it's like, you weren't really attacked. You had some, I mean, this could have just been like a drunk person just like banging their head against your door. Obviously it's anomalous,
with the breathing and whatever. It's clearly anomalous, but in no way were you attacked. But that's what they reported to their handler, and they're like, we were attacked, we gotta get the fuck out of here. So they wrap up the dead body of the humanoid figure in like a sheet, and they carry it to their car, and they just start speeding out of town. I'm like, all right, I'll give them a parting gift then. And I have like, because I wasn't sure, if they would flee the town at some point or not. And I was like, okay, if they ever, at some point they get really involved and they try and just run out of town, the fog, there's supposed to be the big invisible monsters and stuff and that whole section. And I was like, okay, I can do that. But they're driving fast out of town, and it was like the end of the session. So I was like, all right, I'll just give them a little parting gift. So I have like their car gets swiped by some invisible monster. And they do make it out. I didn't want to just completely fuck them over like that. They make it out, but the car is fucked. It's got like big scratch marks all along it. And they call up the handler and they tell him everything. And they get out and they get exfiltrated. And they get paid for their investigation. But then, like 3 days after they get home, they get another call from their handler telling them that they have to go back in. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this place is fucked up. There's clearly weird shit going on, but it's like none of you took any damage whatsoever, I don't think, other than sanity loss. And it's like, this is Delta Green. I mean, it's not gonna be some milk run or, this is it's Call of Cthulhu. This is what happens. So of course you're going back. So they're gonna get sent back in with a Delta Green researcher who has DMT. And the guy is gonna be on DMT and sort of observing the town in its natural state. And they'll be there to just sort of accompany him and compare what he's seen with what they're seeing, stuff like that. And I'm not really planning anything specific to happen, I guess, because they're gonna the doctor's gonna report seeing some really weird shit, and it's sort of up to them with how they deal with this town. I think if they get really overtly violent, the big monsters are going to make an appearance. And there's going to be some skirmishes, probably. Maybe one or two of them will die. And of course, the thing will end with the whole Citra Akra invisible war type thing going on. And at that point, obviously, they will not be involved too much. But maybe I'll have them go into that subway dimensional portal. And they'll have to poke around there. Maybe I'll flesh that out since I'll be working on 2510. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Like I said, there's not going to be too many more sessions of this little campaign. I just wanted them to taste it. I think next Monday Ziggy is in Spain or something, so I think we're just doing like a board game night. And I want Thomas to run his little campaign of Shadow of the Demon Lord or whatever. And then we're gonna get back to Ziggy. So I'm making a guest appearance as a DM just for a little bit. But I think they're liking it so far. They liked the session, or so they said. They said it was definitely tense and creepy, which is good because that's what 2480 should be. But all right, I think I've talked long enough. I'm sure we went over. Yep, we went over an hour. Just barely, though. So, check out SCP RPG tomorrow. Very interesting little video. Interesting little SCP. You can see the finished video after my Let's Play of it. And the Zodiac Killer later this week, if that interests you, if you don't know much about the Zodiac Killer. Always interesting to look at a serial killer that was never caught. That's, I mean, let's be honest, it's impressive. But, yeah, that's that. And we've got more Monster Hunter World Iceborne and Telling Lies this week. That'll be that. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. See you fine folks next week.